And welcome to News from the Pew, where the internet happens and we talk about it. I am your host, Rick Barrett, the founder of L1121 Strategies at thearmedcatholic.com, host of the upcoming conference in a couple weeks in Charlotte, the 15th Annual Catholic Men's Conference. I don't really say it correctly, but it is there. You should go to Carolina Catholic Men, CatholicMenOfTheCarolinas.org, CatholicMenOfTheCarolinas.org, February 8th at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we have an amazing set of speakers. We have the Bishop of Charleston, John Frankman, Anthony and Rob of Avoiding Babylon, John Edwards, myself, and the one and only right below me right now, Enoch will be performing and speaking as well. We actually pulled him for double duty on that. So I hope you all can go there, grab your tickets if you can. We'd love to have you there as well. Steve will actually be there as well, in the corners of the cafeteria, you know, kind of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. If you see him swinging from the places selling his books, that's right. Steve Cunningham, the founder of Sensus Fideum Press in Espanol, Latin, Dutch, and all the other languages. He is with me as always. And then our prodigal son has indeed returned. That is the one and only Enoch, top selling hip-hop artist, number 3 on the gospel. Is it the gospel charts?
Christian gospel charts, yeah.
Amazing feat. So go out and buy his album now, and let's get him to number 1, folks. That would be an amazing accomplishment for him. So it's all great as well. And another eventful week in Trump land. I think he signed an executive order renaming it Trump land. It's no longer the United States of it. It's actually the United States of Trump. It's actually not the Gulf of America. It's the Gulf of Trump. He's actually renamed Great Britain Average Britain, since they're giving a slack about the Gulf of America. And pretty much Kennedy Hall, I'm just busting your chops, but somebody on this program last week talked about making Trump a king, and then you had an article about it. So just cite me, bro. That's all I want. You know, I'm not even that great of a mind. Just like a little asterisk. But we're this much closer to Trump becoming a king. There was actually an amendment put out by a representative that wants to give Trump a 3rd term. It's a legitimate thing, man.
4 more years.
4 more years, because why not? Then we could get Obama for another 4 years after he divorces Michelle and dates what's her face. So we can have all kinds of stuff happen now. It's just the devolution of the constitutional system and the fracturing is it's enjoyable. It is like the Roman Empire falling apart, but we do have Wi-Fi and memes while we're watching this whole thing happen. So it is enjoyable at the moment. And the MLK, JFK, and RFK files have been declassified, so Trump should probably never leave the White House ever again. Steve, what do you think about the last week of things? Although, real quick before I throw it to you, you got to be happy with what he's doing in Western North Carolina right now.
I mean, yeah, great. These here, I mean, helping out, because, all right, so that's good for the people. The polar vortex is now leaving. So it's temperatures going up. The last couple of weeks has been negative 20 for the people in the tent. So, wow. You know, not saying, hey, you know, what were your priorities, anything like that. But yeah, they were in the last 2 weeks freezing their what's off. Intense. So, and don't forget, I'm also for, like, you know, who cares about the feds? Even though he did say something about getting rid of FEMA, should have been done long ago. So there's been some good things, obviously sprinkled in with the other cuckoo crazy stuff that have been like a timeout, cancer causing jabs, no, X-nay on the jab-nay type deal thing that no one's calling out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's up in the mounds right now. Great. I don't know. We were getting things done without the feds. You know me. I could. Trinity Brewery put out something about we should get rid of this federal thing, and I wrote him out. Did you say get rid of the federal government? Yes. Anytime someone says that, I'm for that. So feds go home, even if it's DJT.
Divorce from DC.
Well,
Stephen, you need to pay tribute to your king.
Well, the more
render unto Caesar. Render unto Caesar. We should actually change it to render unto Trump.
You brought up Kennedy's thing, which I've been calling out elected monarch for how many years now? You read the Anti-Federalist; they called this out 200 years ago. we treat the guys, either one, Trump, Obama, Brandon, whoever it is, as an elected monarch. The rides, the close down the roads, you can't use anything, get out of the way. Here, the pomp and circumstance. I mean, him standing in between Grant and Lincoln the other day is kind of like, was that a sign? Like, oh, that's not great. That's not a great visual right there. As Lincoln was your first Caesar, as he created the empire, and things went down tubes after that. You get Teddy Roosevelt, who Trump is acting like, as he's a progressive in himself, as the FDR thing with the multiple elections that he had, the whole, which ties into that amendment right there, which could be trolling the left a little bit. But the Teddy thing about U.S. taking Panama from Colombia, forcing the secession, which they didn't like the South doing it because the South had the money and they didn't want to lose their bankroll, and then they ended up trying to do genocide on the South afterwards because the puritanical influence and everything's going on. Oh, I'm getting all over the place right now. But it's that carry the big stick mentality. We want Greenland. We want Panama. We want this. The whole WEF thing. I just saw Russell Brand say, he just told the globalists to go pound. Not really. I mean, the North American Union that he's trying to push, we're trying to be the center of the globe for AI. You got to be smoking some hopium, some good stuff to be all about, well, we got so many distractions, let me pour my heart out to everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, folks. We'll see you later. We'll see you next week.
The fake bishop lady. How many? That's why I put the meme up. I'm going, it's been a crazy week.
Yeah. I mean, he did. It feels like it. It's been like 2 weeks, but no, he was only inaugurated on Monday, and it's been pretty much warp speed, pun intended, through all of the things that have happened with the 200 executive orders or whatever that he signed. And I get it. In one way, it's nice because he's undoing a lot of things that were not by justice, they were not right, but the precedent was for a king just coming in, 2028, when, as Steve says, when Michelle gets in or Big Mike gets in, why can't she just do 500 executive orders on day one and just undo all the stuff that Trump did?
Yeah, no, it's good to be back with you guys. I agree with Steve on that in that sense. We elect a king every 4 years. And what is that one line from that one movie? Okay, we'll vote for you. You don't vote for kings. It's Monty Python.
The prophets of
the lady of the lake has given the sword to Trump right now. So
it's pretty much what it is. And we criticized Obama when he said, I got a phone and a pen. And see, that's the biggest problem that we have here is every 4 years we go, we go back and forth, this pawn game of semi-conservative policies, more like liberal policies from 15 years ago that keep getting reenacted. And then when we have a Democrat, they go completely left. And then we have a Republican come in, and then we go moderate. So they're moving the post slowly without us seeing it, and they're doing it very effectively, and we're being lulled into this understanding. And listen, this idea of and I've criticized both groups. You got folks who are Trump loyalists who will not criticize him no matter what he does, and they will justify it. But we know for a fact that if Biden or somebody else who's a Democrat with a D name, if he did it, they'd be crucified. But because Trump did it, then this is why he's doing it. This is the reason. With bump stock, remember that? Everybody justify the whole situation. But if Obama would have done it, we would have crucified him for it. But the problem I have is, of course, you have people on the other side. And I was talking privately to Steve about this, and he was talking about, quote, Bellarmine. No administration is completely evil. And my thing about the next 4 years is, listen, applaud the man when he does something good, like yesterday when he signed the pardon of the 23 pro-lifers who were unjustly, arrested for just saving babies. And we have enough people. The people don't understand that Catholic Twitter or just Catholicism in general. we have people up in higher places. We just had Bishop Strickland, we got Taylor Marshall, and I think who was it? The guy who runs LifeSite News. They were up there in the Capitol talking to Mike Johnson. We have folks up in the hierarchy. We have people who know the vice president. And if Trump tries to
mention the vice president to Steve, that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I'm just saying, if we get to a point where Trump is doing something that we could be vocal about it and try to. That's all we can do is pray fast and be vocal about it. We can't really change policy. We're not in that position. We don't have the hierarchy. But at the same time, applaud the man when he does something good, but have the balls to call him out when he does something that is not according to divine and natural law. And if he's aiding the WEF in any way, which is the anti-human, he's got to be called out. And I think that's where we need to be at. And that's virtue, right? That's the whole understanding of virtue. You in the mean, excess and defect is what causes the vice. And this is the problem that we've had the last God knows how many years. You had Biden come in, executive order after executive order. Now Trump comes in. The first week, he just reverts everything that he did. And then in 28, if we don't get Vance or whoever comes in, they're just going to reverse everything Trump did. The only thing Trump that got passed through Congress was the tax cuts. Mm-hmm. And I really wish that he would actually play the long game and get things done to where they're harder to reverse. But here we are electing a king every 4 years, and that keeps reversing what the other person did the last 4 years. And
yeah, it really got kicked off with Bush Jr. doing it after 9/11, and then. I mean, like you said, after that, 4 years later, he gets reversed. The next one comes reversed. Next guy, day one. Yeah. When you hear the whole, we're going to be a dictator day one. That's what their guy was day one for them. That's what their guy was before that. So, in 4 years, when everyone's going, yeah, woo, wah, that means 4 years later, the other guy's going to do that, and then their team's going to go, woo, yeah, get that, take that, baby.
Steve, going back to what you said, that's why I don't really mind the Dodd's decision going to the states. Because then we have a fighting chance of actually ending it in every state versus having one entity control the whole thing and getting reversed every 4 years.
Exactly. But you can't. You get a blanket statement. Where are you going to go?
Right. Now it's available up to infanticide if some crazy person comes in and just with a stroke of a pen.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the problem with people trying to get it back on. When Lindsey Graham comes in and he says, I want a federal 8-week ban or whatever the case may be, it's like, as soon as you put that in, Democrats will come in and they'll manipulate that. And then it's going to be allowed till birth or whatever the case may be. And it'll be codified. And then you're SOL.
You get the executive government. You don't have a constitutional government. You have an executive government. The power is, then you got government by judiciary and Congress. That's Congress' fault. They're supposed to be doing the lawmaking. They're supposed to say, oh, no, you can't do this. But they've been neutered. They can't do anything like that. So they just let it go. So you got this group going instead of three branches trying to equal each other out or, checks and balances. You got one group getting big. You got this other unelected group getting big. And you got these guys supposed to be pretty much holding the reins in, doing nothing. They're collecting money for themselves and getting reelected. And that's about it. But I mean, again, if someone comes in, we got one guy, he's going to fix it all. You're delusional, especially after, for what I was brought up, WEF. Should I just go ahead and start?
Yeah, you might as well. Might as well.
Where is DJ? Well, first off, here's
it's about Project, of course. It's about Project Stargate. That's what they're calling it. The CEOs of OpenAI and Oracle and SoftBank are going to be here talking about this.
Taking place within the Stargate project. Many of these trials and tests remained hidden from the general public until the Freedom of Information Act brought them to light in 1995. Among the most prominent of these attempts were remote viewing activities that sought to uncover intelligence from deep within Russia.
Before the end of my first full business day in Washington in the White House, we've already secured nearly $3 trillion of...
Remember, this is day 2.
New investments in the United States, and probably that's going to be 6 or 7 by the end of the week. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in for many things other than even AI. AI seems to be very hot. It seems to be the thing that a lot of smart people are looking at very strongly. And our country will be prospering like never before. I think that's true, and it's going to be the golden age of America.
gene
Oh, let me get him first.
gene sequence. Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours.
Will be on their best behavior, because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on, and it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be immediately, that's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm is going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to.
The nanny
have
state is
supervision.
complete.
In other words, every police officer
Don't worry, it gets worse.
is supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. We just, if there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. Itself is it's more like a care information system. So if you're looking for, it will look for patients with similar symptoms and similar backgrounds, whether it's genomics, similar genomic signature, similar phenotype, all of this stuff, and it will search all the literature and all the electronic health records and inform that doctor that other doctors have had success treating similar patients in the following way. So it's very close to giving care advice, which we don't do, but it will provide information to doctors. They can see that there was a supporting article in the New England Journal, a Pfizer article that came out, or a Novo Nordisk article about Ozempic.
The world of medicine has seen its share of miracle cures, from the polio vaccine to heart transplants, but all past achievements may pale in comparison to the work of Dr. Alice Crippen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So, Dr. Crippen, give it to me in a nutshell.
We be Crippen?
Well, the premise is quite simple. Take something designed by nature and reprogram it to make it work for the body rather than against it.
You're talking about a virus?
Indeed, yes, in this case, the measles virus, which has been engineered at a genetic level to be helpful rather than harmful.
Yes, this morning wanted to know what tech tycoon Larry Ellison thought of privacy in the age of the internet. Ellison is CEO of Oracle Corporation, which makes a lot of the hardware that makes the internet work. His personal net worth is $43 billion, which Forbes magazine says makes Ellison the third richest American. Charlie spoke with him in his home in California.
Where do you come down on what NSA is doing?
Well, the great thing is we live in a democracy. If we don't like what NSA is doing, we can just get rid of the government and put in a different government.
I wish.
Actually, we've been collecting this information for so long, and long before NSA was collecting it. Let me tell you who was collecting it. American Express, Bank of Visa, all of your credit card data. We have all of your financial records. This whole issue of privacy is utterly fascinating to me. Who's ever heard of this information being misused by the government. In what way?
Well, let me just hear you clearly. You're saying whatever the NSA is doing is okay with me.
It's great. I wish, yeah, it's great. It's essential. By the way, President Obama thinks it's essential. It's essential if we want to minimize the kind of strikes that we just had in Boston. It's absolutely essential.
But what point?
The renewal of the Jewish state is something that I think touches all of us. For 2,000 years, we were a stateless people, and now we have a country of our own, defended by all the brave men and women of the ID.
Once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, and you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Yes, a cancer vaccine can apparently be made in just 48 hours, according to Larry Ellison. This is going to be one of the biggest hoodwinks of all time, and major alarm bells should be going off in your head. Because first off, A, why would they focus on selling you a miracle cure for cancer instead of just trying to prevent cancer in the first place? B, it's interesting how they're marketing this as a vaccine, which conveniently they would not be liable for if something were to go wrong. Even if I give him the benefit of the doubt here, because I believe that some people will be drawn to this kind of miracle cancer cure, do you really trust a CIA agent to have our best interests in mind? Yes, in the 1970s, Larry Ellison's first project was a database codenamed Oracle for the CIA. That was the start of his multi-billion-dollar empire. He wrote in the New York Times, quote, "The single greatest step we Americans could take to make life tougher for terrorists would be to ensure that all the information in myriad government databases was copied into a single comprehensive national security database." The miracle cancer cure thing, that is a marketing ploy. This is all about data, information, and control.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video.
That is the master plan, using the guise of keeping us safe from terrorism in order to usher in an AI-backed mass surveillance state. What if you don't like that idea? Well, he's probably going to try to convince you, because probably not a coincidence, September of last year, Larry Ellison now controls Paramount Global. So he is the majority shareholder of all of these distribution channels, and these are entertainment channels, also news channels.
I could keep going on, but you get the picture.
I mean, how many actual quotes did you get, Steve? Because
I have a lot more. I'm trying to condense it, everything.
You need to get that AI clip thing.
Well, we have was a couple weeks ago we talked about Last American Vagabond. If you want to watch more, it's got a 4-hour show on all of this and more. And it was Elon that said you were going to be spied on everywhere. There's going to be nowhere you can go. So you got Elon over there, you got Larry over here, and they're all in. First off, if you have a science degree, science education more than a third grader, you can't vaccinate cancer. Doesn't work that way. You can help.
Well, I had a video showing what happens when it, but you stopped it halfway through. It was scientifically proven.
I didn't know you did. I was on rapid speed over here. Go to play it.
I find the best way to describe it is if you can.
It's literally a playbook, Stephen.
And you picture the virus as a very fast car.
Have you ever seen this movie, Steve?
Being driven by
yeah, that's right. Did you hear me? You weren't even listening to me when I said it.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't paying attention.
Everybody should know this movie.
Replace that man with a cop. The picture changes, and that's essentially what we've done.
How many people have you treated so far?
Well, we've had 10,009 clinical trials in humans so far.
And how many are cancer?
Like Israel with 100% rate on vaccination.
So you have actually.
Israel's all into this.
Yes, we have.
Oh, it's supposed to show like the zombie apocalypse after. So sorry, folks. I didn't have the complete documentation on that. Yeah, I know. Whatever. It is what it is.
Like you said, you prevent it. You eat right. You drink right. But these guys are trying to. It's like you said, you're getting had on this, and that was day 2. And I talked to Rick. I know Fawaz and I were talking about this before. Ain't nobody talking about this. None of the cheerleaders. Well, that's what Fawaz was bringing up. Have the guts, have the stones to say it. If you want to be a cheerleader, fine. Rah when he's good. But you have no principle if you can't call out the bad stuff. And this is, again, let's shoot. How many times we talk about this? The 2019 video, the biometric prison.
Well, also, you're seeing this in England.
The biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. We will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air.
You have it already.
Coming down.
You have it in little England, average Britain, and you have it in China. So they're already, and it's going to be in Los Angeles in about 2 years. So, you don't burn Fawaz. You can give us an idea about, the effect of the wildfires on that entire area, being a Californian, and just the fact that that whole area is cleared out. And most people, from what I've heard, are not going back.
No, you also don't have fires in January. That's unheard of traditionally in California. September, October is fire season. January, never. It's unheard of, and it's nuts. We've seen some of these things where they can. We saw in Hawaii some of that laser stuff was targeting homes. The ability to not so much control the weather, but the ability to if it's windy, can make it windier and getting the wind go a direction that you want it to go. Burning out, you had entire houses burned. And I remember back, so making this point, I remember back when Benedict was Pope, he said something that was very controversial. He was talking about condoms. And he said the fact that those in Africa and then those in other places where AIDS is heavily affected in the population, those who want to use condoms, there's the philosophy behind it. There's a sense of mercy because you want to protect the person. And then the media came out and said, Pope Benedict in favor of condoms. I remember the situation very, like it was yesterday because I was defending him. I said, that's not what he said. And it's the same thing. Like, listen, you want to have tracking systems because you want to track terrorists. The idea behind it is fine. You want to end cancer. The idea behind it is very merciful. The problem I have with this is, as we've seen in 2020, when you give these people power, and then they come in the guise of everybody do your parts, we're all in this together, and they fluff it with words and the pro-choice and all of these words that they fluff it with. The problem that we have with this is I don't trust any of these people. And the idea behind it, okay, fine. If you had St. Joseph running this thing, it would be great. I don't trust any of these people. And this is the biggest problem that I've had. And when you have the most powerful man in the world, Trump, at face value, back in this, he did say, I think it was today or yesterday, I remember he said, the reporter said, the federal government is not going to be funding this. And he said, well, we're not. The billionaires have to figure it out. But guess what? Those guys have enough money. Elon Musk has enough money. Larry, and they can just get a bunch of billionaires together. All they want to do is control the world anyways. Yeah. They'll put up their own money to do it anyways. Yeah. And that almost becomes worse because it's like, hey, we put up this money ourselves. We own this. And now we have unelected officials running the entire world off of tracking systems and off of putting something in us that we don't really want or need. And that becomes the biggest problem. But ultimately, and my final point, if you guys don't mind, I'll make this very short. Because the idea of the Antichrist is a fact. It's going to happen regardless of what. The early church fathers have been, the scripture is clear with it. The church fathers are unanimous about it. Every event that happens is going to eventually lead to the eventual event. So there's no stopping it. There's really no stopping it. The only thing that we can do is literally be in the state of grace. And if we're going to suffer because of it, then we're going to have a higher crown in heaven because the thorns are going to be a lot worse for us than others. So my thing is, there's no way of stopping it. We can try to stop it, but at the very least, it's just going to happen. You just got to face the suffering and hope that you and your children are in a state of grace. So that's going to be my message.
Yeah, you're watching. It's Technocracy. That's the World Economic. That's the Great Reset. The digital convergence. All that. That is exactly that's where the whole thing. Oh, Trump was speaking at the WEF, and he had Alex Jones going. He's telling them that we're not going to be global. There's
the thing with Alex Jones.
As you guys brought up before, if Brandon was doing this, people would be losing their minds. Day 2, that came at 20, not even 24 hours after he was sworn in. By the way, anybody gets upset about him not putting his hand on the Bible, that's not a requirement.
You don't have to.
All you have to do is the oath that no one cares about anyways. It's the oath. I mean,
Robert started early. That's what happened. Robert started early. Melania wasn't even there yet. There's no conspiracy theory. It was just what it was.
But it's not.
So when I do become president, I'm actually going to take the oath on a Dr. Seuss book just to really prove the point.
Calvin Coolidge got woken up in the middle of the night because the guy before him died, and he woke up, did the oath, and went back to sleep.
It's exactly right in all counts with all of that. So it is a technocracy. It's all. Oh, here's what I was trying to get to. You say it's day 2, so there is 2 things real quick. Steve and I had been telling you throughout the entire summer of 2024, Trump's going to be put back into office. Trump will be put back into office. And everybody's like, it's a neck breaker. They're going to put Kamala in. And what did Steve and I tell you? They're going to put Trump back in so they can do whatever they want. And everybody is just going to, from the Star Wars reference to thunderous applause, everything's going to happen. Second thing, there's a reason why he threw out 55 executive orders on day 1, because everybody's too busy covering the 55 executive orders. And then on day 2, he's like, by the way, we're doing a cancer jab. And then he just and they're like, but they're too busy writing up like, oh, he's getting rid of this and he's getting rid of that and he's getting rid of all these other things. And by the time they catch up, they're like, don't worry about it, because now he's pardoning the J6ers and he's pardoning which, by the way, great pardon the J6ers, great pardon the pro-lifers, love it. But when you sandwich the cancer vax between those 2 things, that's like, don't worry about that. It's a throwaway line.
Last week we brought up he had lunch with Bill Gates for hours, and Gates loved it. Said how great of a conversation it was. His heart will go out to him again. What happened during one of the executive orders? He got out of the WHO. He got out of the Paris Agreement. By the way, again, he got out of the WHO in 2020. We were the number 1 donating group to WHO. What happened after that? He gave it right to Gavi. Who runs Gavi? Bill Gates. You don't remember who
Gavi operates with great transparency, and Boris Johnson is somebody with tremendous respect for you and everything you do. He called, he said, do you think you could do something maybe around the Oval Office or right by the Oval Office? I said, why not? It happens to be right behind me. As the coronavirus has shown, there are no borders. It doesn't discriminate. It's mean, it's nasty, but we're going to all take care of it together. It's great to be partnering with you. We will work hard. We will work strong. Send my regards to Boris and good.
So, and that was the Gavi commercial. He gave the money. He gave more money to Gavi. By the way, at the WEF thing, I watched the thing, so you guys don't have to watch it. It was really a boring speech. They're friends. If you watch it, you're going to see they took out a 30-second clip that's going around Twitter. But if you watch the whole thing, it's pretty much, everyone's friendly with each other.
Yeah. I mean, it's you don't get to be a billionaire without being buddies with all of them. By the way, Fawaz had to jump, go back to like a real job, unlike what we do. So,
well, here's DJT on the jabs.
Get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot. Today, we're on the verge of another American medical miracle. This is one of the greatest miracles in the history of modern day.
Everything's a miracle.
Medicine.
Pfizer and Moderna have announced their vaccine is approximately 95% effective. These vaccines are also very safe. A medical miracle. We have delivered a safe and effective vaccine in just 9 months.
What we've done is historic.
It goes on for a few minutes, for 5 minutes on that. You get the idea because you just saw the miracle thing for cancer. We're going to have a cancer vaccine in 48 hours that injects in you, knows what's going on inside your body, the internet of bodies. I mean, literally, the emergence of Elon's talked about it. Klaus Schwab has talked about it. This literally going down, and you got the people that used to fight against it now cheerleading for it, or just not even bringing it up.
They just ignore it. They just ignore it because they don't want to catch flack for it, and they don't want
Well,
they don't want the
get
party to
invited
stop.
to Mar-a-Lago if they call it out.
Yeah, that's right. They'll never. They won't get invited back into the White House to take pictures.
Right.
And yeah, for some extent, but the idea behind all of that is just absolutely mind numbing. That we're so blinded by the idol worship of Trump, and people don't want to call it out because they don't want to actually have to face that reality. And yes, you're in the honeymoon phase, folks. You can't have the honeymoon phase because, as Steve has pointed out a couple times already, on day 2, we already dropped probably the most important thing of the entire administration. He's like, by the way, we're going to pre-inject you for cancer. And it's like, wait, what? You're going to do what? So it's,
I don't know how people didn't lose it. I mean, there's some people that called it out and go, wait, what? But no, the big one, Steven Crowder finally called it out. I'm trying to think.
Crowder's more independent, so he's not beholden to anybody. Nobody at the Blaze is going to say anything. No, at the Daily Wire is going to say anything. None of none of your big conservative outlets are going to say anything. None of your big influencers in the Catholic area are going to say anything because they're still too busy. Real quick, Steve, they're too busy talking about Mel still. So that's why they're not talking about the vaccine, because we're still talking about how Mel cursed on Joe Rogan. So they still haven't been able to get over that.
So. Catholic votes been talking about, look at JD Vance, our first VP walking in the March for Life. That doesn't mean anything. But hey, you guys going to do the MRA thing? No, not going to. Because if the moment Catholic vote brings up the MRA thing, they're done. That position they have is gone, moving to the next one. And
especially since this version of Trump is letting in alternative media into the press room.
Oh yeah,
like Mary, one of the Catholics that works for the Daily Wire, and I don't mean to speech her like that. She's in the press room now. She's like the first Daily Wire press reporter. So these alternative media sites are not even going to touch anything negative now because there's an even greater incentive to get into the press room to actually talk to the press secretary. So you'll never hear any of the big groups even question any, the North Korean propaganda will continue to, right? I'm so happy Trump make very good speech today. I'm very happy Trump make very good speech. No MRA, no nothing. You shush. Very good.
Someone called Jack Posabic. Hey, where you at, man? Did you call this out yet? No, he'd be picked off that
he's
show.
Got more books to sell, homie. He's already got a book. He's got a guy ghostwriting a book on Trump as we speak. And
one of the things that everyone's cheerleading is the Trump ban's gain of funds.
If it's live at the White House with the details. So, Mark, they didn't end this already?
There was the original pause, but now obviously there's been a lot of focus on what's been happening in the last couple of years. Lawrence, good morning to you and good morning, friends. The Wall Street Journal reports that the Trump administration is drafting an executive order that would temporarily pause federal funding for gain-of-function research. Now, the idea behind this, of course, would be to allow Trump...
Now, just for time, that got changed. Remember that whole time when everything got changed, the wordings got changed? Gain-of-function actually got changed to EPO. So... yeah. Oh, wait, we're not funding gain of function. It doesn't exist anymore. After you just got heard day 2, you heard all this thing about cancer vaccines and things like that. You thinking they're not going to do something with that? That it's a smokescreen or a shell game, whatever you want to call it. It's really nutty, the stuff that's going on. The EOs, you got to focus on don't go with the emotional way. Like the CBDC, Fawaz brought up before the talk. Someone brought exactly this. Is this it right here? So Trump just banned CBDCs with an EO, but the same EO pushes private issued stable coins to promote and protect the sovereignty of the US dollar.
Also, there's the rumor, he hasn't done it yet, that he's going to establish some kind of Bitcoin Federal Reserve or some kind of Bitcoin reserve, which could be your back door once everybody invests into Bitcoin. Now it's like, well, Bitcoin is equivalent to gold, so we have to bring it into federal regulation, blah, 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 this, that, and the third, and, wealth control and yada, yada, yada. That's the biggest thing with people with Bitcoin that, some people get it. They're like, folks, Bitcoin is a scam. I know it's giving you money right now, but it is preparing you for the day when credit cards don't work. And it was funny when Trump did call out Bank of America, and Bank of America was like, we don't have any political litmus tests. And underneath their post, there was 400 people like, well, he canceled me, he canceled me, he canceled me. There will be a time when that happens again, and everybody who went to Bitcoin as some kind of protective service, they're gonna be like, by the way, Bank of America, you've actually had banks say we're ready to adopt Bitcoin and stuff as long when it becomes more feasible for transactions. And that's what the Federal Reserve of Bitcoin is going to be, or whatever that is. It's all going to streamline into it. There is not going to be Bitcoin will not be an escape. It only accelerates the process.
It's just like using your phone to buy PayPal, trying to pay for things over PayPal. It's getting that cashless society going in your head. You're not using cash anymore. It's dirty. It's got germs on it anyways. Remember that whole thing 4 years ago?
To be fair, dollar bills are pretty nasty.
I get it. I mean, I still put it in my mouth and all that. And you know what?
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't. Don't.
To hold it. If you need to hold something, you hold it. It's like, hey,
no, you're muted for 5 seconds. No, you're not telling me. You put the stuff in your mouth? Steve, I love you, but that's just, ugh. I mean, I was a rugby player. I've done some nasty things in my life, but the fact, no, I can't even tell you. Anyway, continue.
Anyway, the CBDC, the digital ID, the digital currency, all that. Well, here's WEF guys talking about it. Here's the guy in Spain. Yeah.
I propose putting an end.
This was this week.
No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment.
No, you gotta have an ID to be online. Here's
real quick, we did celebrate it, but when Pornhub left, why did they leave those states? Because you had to upload your ID to show that you were over 18. Theoretically, like Flaz was saying before, theoretically, it's a great practice to protect children from these things. But at the same time, it is normalizing having to register or show proof of residency in order to use the internet. So,
well, like Larry said, where do I get the info? Credit cards. He's got all this information. He's got everything.
Well, that was the thing with the whole TikTok ban or Facebook and all these other kinds of things. Like Facebook creates a shadow profile, even if you're not on Facebook, because if your sons are on Facebook and they all have mom listed in their contacts, because people are like, oh, do you want to sync Meta with your contacts? Yes, I do. Well, guess what? Now they all have mom at 555-12345. And then if a plumber uses Facebook and they see 555-12345, Shannon. Oh, Shannon's at 12345, has 3 sons, lives here, and TikTok does the exact same thing. They suck all this information out of your phone on a daily basis, and you people don't even realize that. You're like, oh yeah, sync contacts, great idea. Here you go. And it's like, boom. Now they got, yeah.
The extended video of Larry. He talks about your phone spying on you, and then turning it off when you go to the bathroom. And then he says, but we only turn the video off. We're still listening. We're still recording. And they only could get used if a court order is allowed. So that he admits to literally spying on you 24/7, even in the bathroom. They'll just cut the video feed off. And that's it. That's supposed to make you feel better when he's saying this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the idea, there was a big thing back a couple years ago when that came out. They just have teams of people transcribing the audio.
Yeah.
Just, going through it. That's how voice recognition systems work, is that they have to hear your audio in order to hear your voice, in order to understand voice commands. And, the joke, the meme is still there, where it's like in the 50s, I don't want my house wiretapped. Now it's like, hey, wiretap, tell me how to make waffles. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, went from like Uber. Don't get in a car with strangers. Now you get in a car with a complete stranger and take you anywhere. Don't accept don't accept food from strangers. In Uber, people would give you drinks and food and whatever.
Now you have Uber Eats and DoorDash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
everything's turned on.
The horror stories that come from those places too.
Here's water credits.
We can't
I think it'll be very difficult to create a whole ecosystem for water credits, sustainable water credits, biodiversity credits, and side by side with carbon credits. It can be done in theory, but it's going to exhaust the private.
How much better does that AI have to be than a human being? Is 10 times better enough? Is 20 times better? You know, you look at Waymo, for example, based on their safety statistics. Ruth, how much safer is Waymo than human beings probably at this point?
Meaningfully safer, but your point is well taken. There is more forgiveness when it's a human driver.
So the question.
And what does DJT say? He wants us to be the center of the globe for AI.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, do we get our personal T100?
You joke, but you can buy life-size robots from China for like 15 grand that will do folding laundry. They're this close to folding laundry, doing dishes, doing all these things in your house. Because I watched Timcast and they were on air like, dude, this thing, and of course Tim's a millionaire. He's like, I'm buying one of these robots and we're gonna have it in the house. Like they're this close to doing the menial tasks that people don't want to do every day, and people will buy those things and they will put them in their house and they will have AI in them that work, and they will be essentially human. And so when you joke about the T100s, we're about 5-6 years away from mass adoption of robot, like iRobot, you know, the movie iRobot, where they're all like doing the daily things for that. And in one way, I always give this question to people, you know, we have a declining birth rate, so they tell us we have to have immigrants in. Well, I'll propose this to you. What would you rather have if you told your population, we need to, you know, the population needs to we need to repopulate America. Here's how we're going to do it. You either do 10,000 immigrants or 10,000 robots. Which one do you want? You know, and that's my litmus test for people. Which one? In that way, you can tell the families, your only job is to repopulate. You know, the robots or the immigrants will take care of this stuff, repopulate, and then, you know, and go from there.
Well, was it China or Japan? They have, 4 years ago, they talked about having gigantic increase in sex robots. Because
those things are out now. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
Imagine what it is now. And then all this tech that they talk about now, they had that before.
I'm sure you've seen them. They're at these tech conferences. They have the life-size robots that interact with you and all these, and they're about 10 to 20,000, which some guys who are super lonely and stuff like that, you know, it's gross, but because
they're not just super lonely. They're not just super lonely. They don't know how to communicate because they're already texting or typing online or whatever. They don't know how to talk to each other.
Well, what happened is OnlyFans has, you know, through the TikTok to porn pipeline, TikTok destroyed the relationships between men and women because men don't know how to see women as anything but sexual objects, and women can go online and post a picture of them in a scantily clad outfit and get admiration from any man around the world. So it used to be you were competing in your local town for the, you know, girls and boys were competing with each other, and eventually everybody would kind of settle in. Now that same small town, that guy is now competing with 100 million other men for the affection and the attention of this one girl. And when you look at it from that standpoint, the men don't stand a chance because the women are out earning men via TikTok, OnlyFans, and they're making millions of dollars, 100, you know, and these guys are barely making money at Panda Express or at McDonald's or whatever these places are. And B, they can't compete with the admiration that these women can get affection and admiration and appeal to their vanity 24 hours a day. So if you want to break this down to the vices, the 7 deadly sins, women's vanity is exposed and men's lust is exposed. And it's a complete destruction that, you know, I talked about this years ago, the TikTok to porn pipeline. And if you wanted to ban TikTok, you needed to ban it 5-6 years ago when this started. Banning it now doesn't matter because now you have Reels and you have YouTube Shorts and the toothpaste is out of the bottle. So banning TikTok doesn't matter because they have OnlyFans and all these other things as well. So
that's from the Frankfurt School from long ago to go in and destroy morality. I mean, communism. When someone says we don't have communism here, you've had it for 150 years. the minimum, maybe. I mean, the 48ers, the 1840. Jack posted something about we got to get back to the 60s. Going, heck yeah, or eliminate the 60s. So, yeah, eliminate the 1860s. We'd be a much better position if that. By the way,
well,
but yeah,
I mean that post you sent me from Lee. If Lee knew what America was going to be, he wouldn't have given up. He would have never
not on a horse with sword in hand.
Yep. I think that's, if you asked most Southerners, if they knew what was going to happen, they would have made Sherman burn the entire South before they gave it up.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, if no one knows what we're talking about on this, the puritanical mindset is to always centralize. And that's what the Northeasterners were. I mean, we're not talking New York. New York was actually a very, very conservative Confederate state in a sense. And then the Puritans came in and took it over. And the puritanical mindset of work for wealth accumulation. Whereas the Southern idea was work for leisure, work for pleasure, work just to get something on the table, an idea. They actually had a study in Jebediah's book, Defending Dixie. He did. I told Rick this. They documented the times a slave would work. And he's going, if this is just slaves working, because the masters worked with them, the families worked with everybody. And anyway, it's really fascinating. 1,060 hours a week was, they say, if it's just them working, versus free Northerners working 2,000 hours a week. And just think about that. And then go with the South had more money. Mm-hmm. After the war, it was destroyed. They actually, like I said, they tried to, the wealth is a wealth transfer, hence the communistic part of this thing. So yeah, they had, and then you see today, what's the leading thing? Money, money, money. Hey, I'm not saying Trump's part of that thing, that mindset, what I'm just saying, but you hear him say, no one works as hard. He's up all the time, never takes a break, things like that. And Larry Ellison, $50 billion guy. All these money, just to accumulate. Zero leisure, zero back to this. Everyone's about getting more. That mindset back in the 1860s is what's ruling everything now. That's where you got the empire, you got this thing. Now you got a global empire coming out from that. That's the final thing. After you centralize this, you have to have a centralized government, one world government in a sense. Somebody wants to control the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. It has to. With that much wealth being accumulated, eventually egos are going to get involved and things are going to have, somebody's going to have to settle that because there's too many egos in the room. Mm-hmm. They're all playing nice right now, but when it comes down to brass tacks, Elon and Ellison and Gates and, Trump, his family, these billionaires are not going to work together in harmony. If there's an opportunity for, as the Highlander says, there can only be one. And when you're going after wealth, what Steve is saying, when you use wealth as the factor, not holiness, not being in a state of grace or not pursuing the virtues, when it is something secular, like I have the most money, I have the most jets, I have the most things, somebody is going to want to be at the top of that mountain. Mm-hmm. And it's human nature. That's why we have the 10 commandments and the virtues that the saints and our Lord passed down to fight these human urges, lust, of vanity, of greed, of all of this stuff. We have to follow the virtues, but in a secular society, it's not about virtue. It's about how much, how nice is my car? How big is my house? How new is my phone? How whatever, not about how many kids you have, not about how many times how many rosaries you prayed or any of these other things. It's about tangible things. Look at all of this stuff that I
see that it's fallen nature, but you see that even on our side. Just look at our guys. It's all about,
we're not perfect.
Growing our brand, growing this, not working together as a unit for the greater glory. There's a report, I think I sent that to you, of, say, a visitor came through the South, and it was Sunday, they would make them wait. They would put them up in the best area of the house, feed them, enjoy, have fun, whatever service, church, whatever. By the way, there was Catholics down there. Irish Scots were big in the South. Why? And they bring up, why do you think there was no Philadelphia things like that? There was Catholics in the South, but you didn't have any burnings of churches. Like, when you hear Dagger John having to go in and threatening him, we're going to burn down the city if you keep this up in New York City, or in Philadelphia, why they had the cathedral with the windows all the way up top because they couldn't reach it with the rocks. Because if you had it down there, they'd burn it down. You didn't have that down here. The Puritans wanted to purify everyone into their image and likeness. And there's a mindset right there to make us all like this. And if you don't live the way we like you to live, we're going to take you out or we're going to change you somewhere. And you see that with governors and all that now. California, gruesome Newsom. If Louisiana says this, oh, we can't have this. Dude, you're 3 time zones away. How does that affect you at night? These people wake up upset about that, like those guys back then.
Yeah, it is. And that's something I think as we wrap up the show to keep in mind. Yes, Trump's going to do some good stuff, but look at the things that are being done in the background, because the pardons and the pro-life march and all this other stuff, that's the flash hand. That's what you're supposed to pay attention to. Keep your eye on what the left hand's doing while the right hand is showing you all the promises kept and the Marines are at the border and all this other kind of stuff. While the right hand's showing you this, what is the left hand doing? And the crazy thing is it doesn't take a lot of research because they're telling you, right? They're telling you what they're doing.
I like what one lady said, call him out. If you see a guy that's a cheerleader, call him out on this. I mean, this is not that mRNA AI stuff. This is not just, little stuff. This is a big, and my wife just told me beforehand, they're having this huge homeschool thing coming down that it could be worse than any state law. Was it Coalition for Responsible Home Education.org website, a model bill that some states may be considering. What homeschoolers need to know about the Make Homeschool Safe Act. Look that thing up, and that's it may not impact your state, but it could be something that really takes down, puts some dampers in the homeschool networks.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna. I gotta go get my wife. I gotta pick her up from work. That's why we're more condensed than usual. So for my saint of the week, I'm gonna say the pro-lifers that were pardoned. These people were unjustly put in jail. So it's good that they're being released, especially the older folks that are, being oppressed or being, I can't think of the word, but yes, they were being taken after and they were being oppressed. So good for them. That's great. I'm very happy that they are. My cry room is a guy named Christopher Rufo. He was a big person in the Trump movement until he kind of went Vivek Ramaswamy. And he started saying like, hey, stop complaining about, immigrants, go get a job at Panda Express. And he literally was like, get a job at Panda Express and work your way up. And he got kind of driven into the dirt for that. So I could also put AOC in the cry room as well for, trying to tell people how to get around immigration coming to come and get you, and so forth.
Just quickly, a couple honorable mentions. German citizens required to affirm Israel's right to exist to be a citizen. And Freemasons are coming back to Syria. Thank you. Thank you, federal government of U.S. Cry room, I'm going with the cheerleaders of DJT that have yet to say anything about MNRA tech. I mean, that was a given. Saint of the day, Saint of the week, the people that called it out. And Anthony on Avoiding Babylon actually called out Nick saying, see, your example, in live time, he did it. And Nick was like, it's Trump, so it's not a big deal and all that. And Anthony goes, see, you're even doing it. Because the other guy, he's a big DJT cheerleader. You can't even admit that this is bad, because if Brandon did it, you'd be upset. And just a lot of that's going around right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. And so we have to stay vigilant in that regard. But that is it for this episode of News from the Pew. Please like, subscribe, and share the news from the Pew, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I saw next week we will have a longer episode because all of this stuff should have taken care of itself. We will talk to you all then. God bless and viva Cristo Rey.
First, I described that in my book, My Conversations with Albert Bourla of Pfizer, and I persuaded him to give tiny Israel the necessary vaccines to get us out first from the COVID. And the reason I could do that is because we have a database, 98%, a medical database, 98% of our population has digitized medical records and little card, And anywhere you go in any hospital in Israel, north, south, doesn't make any difference. Boom, you punch it in and you know everything about this patient for the last 20 years. I said, we'll use that to tell you whether these vaccines, what do they do to people, not individual people, not with their individual identities, but statistically. What does it do to people with, meningitis? What does it do to people with high blood pressure? What is it? You want to know that. So Israel became, if you will, the lab for Pfizer. And that's how we did it. We got it out and we gave the information to the world. Not only, it's been published in medical magazines and so on.